Recording. So good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming out or staying in wherever you are today. And this is the latest in our series between the Bangor Public Library and SCORE, different topics to support small business owners and entrepreneurs. We're very excited to have Dan Reed today to talk about the hot button issue of AI and how it can impact your business. Before Dan gets started, I'm just going to toss it over to Donna from SCORE so she can share a little bit more about their organization. So go ahead, Donna.
Thank you, Hannah. So for those of you who don't know anything about SCORE, we're a volunteer organization, and we help people at all stages of their business. So whether you just have an idea right now about a business, or whether you've been in business and now you want to sell because you want to retire, we're with you really at all those stages. We have approximately 125 volunteers throughout the state. And really, I think one of the nicest parts we offer people is you may get assigned to me as a mentor, but if you start talking about your need for social media help, I immediately will get on the phone with another mentor who has a lot more experience. So I would welcome anybody who's interested in some help. You just go to score.org and ask for a mentor, and we go from there. So today, very excited about the AI topic. You can tell we were already getting into it before we got started, and appreciate all the questions, because most of us have a lot of questions about AI. And so Dan will be giving us some background on that. But before we get to that, I really want to thank Norway Savings Bank for sponsoring this. And I'd like to introduce Rick Flagg, who will talk a little bit about the reasons why they sponsor events like this.
Great. Thank you, Donna. Appreciate it. Good afternoon, everybody. As Donna said, my name is Rick Flagg, and I'm the senior commercial lender here at Norway Savings Bank. I'm hopeful that most of you, if not everybody's heard of Norway Savings, but we're a community-based mutual savings bank with a 150-year history of delivering banking services and solutions to individuals and local businesses. We have 24 branches, primarily in southern and western Maine, and 12 amazing, experienced commercial lenders covering that footprint. Our connection with SCORE is a long and beneficial one. We certainly see the value that they provide to Maine's economic development. Many of the businesses that we work with are or were previously clients of SCORE, where they gain the benefit of very tailored and experienced and valuable support for their needs. We're proud to work with SCORE and excited about sponsoring this webinar. There's certainly much to learn about the applications of AI in our respective business lines. So I'm looking forward to listening and learning. So on behalf of Norway Savings Bank, thank you to SCORE, and back to you, Donna and Dan. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'd like to introduce Dan Reed, who works with us at SCORE in our Portland office, and he's done this presentation, I think, a few times. So you probably know what some of our questions are, and we really look forward to the presentation. So with that, Dan, go for it.
Thank you so much, Donna, Rick, and Hannah. We do very much appreciate it, and we'll go ahead and get started. And just to answer some of the preliminary questions that kind of came up, we will be talking about the basics of AI today. And as our presentation goes along, it'll get a little more complex. So no matter where you're at in your business cycle, there's going to be something that I think will be a little helpful for you. Even if the beginning stuff looks a little simple, just hang on until the end. We'll come in with some recommendations that might be helpful. So thank you for joining us today on AI for your business. And just to dig in on the very basics of AI, what is AI? We're talking about, you may have heard machine learning in the past. It's a very popular older buzzword for AI. But basically, it's just a program that can learn how to do things and can help you do things, because it's a little bit quicker when it comes to pattern recognition, and a little bit quicker when it comes to giving you results that are relevant to what you're looking for, no matter what that might be. And how you interact with an AI really comes down to the concept of prompts. So when you're using an AI tool, you're almost always going to be prompting that AI tool to do a task for you or to ask you to do something. And this image that we have here is a really good example. This is ChatGPT, and I just asked it, what are some resources for starting a business in Maine? As you can see, I didn't need to use proper grammar. I could just kind of put in a half sentence, and it spit out some really great examples of different organizations I can talk to throughout the state in order to get help with starting my business. You can see SCORE Maine is on there as one of them. And the context that you're providing when you create a prompt and submit a prompt to an AI is very, very important. An AI only has the information that you provide to it when you submit your prompt. For example, if we didn't put Maine in here, it might not come up with SCORE Maine or the Maine Revenue Service or the Maine Secretary of State. It might link to national resources or other resources in general that might not be locally specific to us here in Maine. So you want to make sure that the context you're providing when you create a prompt for AI is exactly what you're looking for and as specific as you can get. Another thing is iteration is key. AI doesn't always get it right the first time. Most of us don't get it right the first time either. So working with the AI, just, maybe changing a word here or there, hey, I wasn't really talking about that, or those people that I listed aren't people who are actually speaking at this event. Just as some examples, you can kind of get into changing the output that the AI will give you so that it's more useful for you in the end. And as I mentioned, AI is really, really good, and where it really shines is in pattern recognition. So if you use the same AI over and over again, and you keep iterating with it over and over again, especially in a program like ChatGPT or Gemini or Google Bard, then every time you do it in that AI thread, it will get a little bit better. It knows a little bit more about what you asked last time and what you asked previous times and what you're looking for as far as an answer goes. Another thing, and we kind of mentioned this and it came up a little earlier, fact versus fiction. AI does not have all the information that you might have when you prompt it. And what that might mean, for example, just to throw an example out there, if you're writing a resume and you don't provide any schooling that you might have, the AI might decide that you graduated from the University of Southern Maine in 2017. That's just information that it pulls to put something in that spot. So you'll want to make sure whenever you're working with AI, any information that it comes up with, you're very critical about. You want to make sure that it is the right information. And the best way to avoid that is, again, with that context. Context is super important. If you provide the schooling that you have, then it will use that information rather than trying to come up with something. And another thing to keep in mind is at the moment, especially when it relates to small businesses, much of the AI offerings that are available are very tech and office focused. So these are going to be the things that can help you in the kind of more the office side of your businesses rather than the actual hands-on part of your business. Just things like marketing, accounting, etc. And another thing is you'll always want to check with your existing software solutions for new AI features. A really good example is Zoom. Zoom recently came out with an AI summary feature that can summarize, essentially provide secretarial notes for a meeting. And that's something that came out within the last few months that a lot of people aren't aware about. It's just another one of those little buttons that they put at the bottom bar in your Zoom screen. Another thing to keep an eye on when you're choosing an AI tool is terms and conditions. You want to review the privacy policies and data usage policies of any AI tools that you're using. And what that will look like is if those data usage policies don't really favor you, and an example for that is any data put into the AI tool can be used for any output, then that's something you might want to be considerate of, especially if you're using confidential information. You can anonymize that data if needed. And you want to make sure that these are considerations that you actually have a need for as well. And the best way to do that is check the terms and conditions, data ownership rights rather, of any of the AI products that you're using. For example, if you're generating an image, you want to make sure that you actually have the rights to use that image commercially. And one of the best ways to do that is just to make sure that you're choosing reputable vendors who are very straightforward about their terms and conditions policies. You'll want to look for something like any products created by this AI tool are the creators to keep in perpetuity, for example. You want to make sure that it provides you the rights rather than the rights to the company that created the AI tool. And many AI tools are currently trained on existing work and do not provide credit or sourcing of that information. That's another thing that we were talking a little bit about before we got started today. And that's something that you want to be considerate of when you make a choice. Is my future investment in this tool going to be compromised because this tool uses publicly existing artwork that it's not crediting, for example? And there are tools in which are very specific about this. We'll get into that a little later, but Getty Images, for example, uses only commercially sourced AI images to train their AI. And that's one way that you can kind of differentiate and make sure that you're using tools that are going to be safe for you to use long term. I didn't want to put any terms and conditions in here that are red flags necessarily, because I didn't want to call out any particular companies. But it is something that you'll want to consider when you start using tools. And to get into the first kind of AI, this is the one that we have all heard about, and that's text generation, ChatGPT or Google Bard, now known as Google Gemini. These are, you might also hear this buzzword, NLP, or natural language processing. Basically, what that means is these tools understand written language in a very similar way that we do. So they understand the context of written language rather than just the series of letters that make up words. And that means that they're trained on a lot of text data. It's usually the internet. It could also be any other prompt that's put into their system. And that's kind of where that confidentiality comes into play, is they might be using any data that you give it to train the AI itself to be better. And that's something you want to be concerned about if it's confidential information, because they might repeat, reiterate, or plug in pieces of that information into someone else's answer or someone else's response to a prompt. And both of these tools, ChatGPT and Google Gemini, have free versions. And this is probably the best starting point for most people when it comes to using AI. It can significantly speed up any admin work that you have. One example being just responding to emails or responding to Facebook messages, especially after a long day for a business owner. That can be very tiring to have to go and then respond to messages. And AI is a really good way where you can copy the message, put it into your AI tool, and it will spit out a response for you. And there are some examples of prompt guides that we have over here on the right for ChatGPT and Google Bard to kind of tailor the response that you want based on the kind of thing that you're doing. And on the other side of it, we also have text generation uses. So these are the basic things that you can use Google Bard or Google Gemini and ChatGPT for. Things like writing blog posts. It's a really great starting point for that. You'll want to be very careful about plagiarism. So it's a good starting point in that you'll want to rewrite any material that you are provided by the AI tool. And you'll especially want to be careful about that in regards to copywriting and any information that it gives you that you didn't give it in the beginning. It's great for brainstorming. It acts as a fantastic sounding board to get really quick responses with the condition of user beware, that it's a program. It's not someone who necessarily has experience or background in the same way that a SCORE mentor might when you're looking to get advice or brainstorm with an AI tool. But it is a good starting point to do some brainstorming and then take those results to a mentor. You can copy a document into ChatGPT and ask for a summary. It's very helpful. And as I mentioned, you can use it to write email responses, create a task list. Or this image example here is creating a SWOT analysis or a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and tactics analysis for a small marketing company in Maine. And this is a very quick prompt that took me maybe 4 or 5 minutes to write up. And it gave some really good responses, especially right in the beginning, just something raw that you can wrap your mind around and then iterate and kind of make it your own. And as I mentioned, don't forget to check for data errors. It might give you information and you can't necessarily trust that information right off the top. You'll want to validate every piece of information that it gives you that you didn't provide. Now, the other end of things, this is kind of like step 2 when it comes to working with AI. We have image generation. This is very popular nowadays. And one of the things about image generation when it comes to prompt development is you'll want to focus on quality over quantity. Image generation tends to come in the form of tokens when you're using a AI tool. This is very ubiquitous with most of the tools that have this function. So you'll want to make sure that every token that you're using to maximum effect rather than trying to iterate through tokens. And you can do that through experimenting with perspective, angle, focus point, all with your prompts, very similarly to how you can prompt engineer text generation. And one of the really neat things about image generation is a lot of tools allow you to attach a reference image, which can be incredibly important, and we'll see a little bit more about why on the next slide. And you want to experiment with variation, iteration to get the image you're looking for once you have a good foundation. And this includes tools such as DALL-E, Midjourney, and Getty Generative AI. And as you can see here on the right, this is a totally AI generated image using a tool called Runway AI. And my prompt was a person comfortably enjoying the beach.
And before you move on, we did have a question about what does a token mean? Can you define that real quick?
Oh, great question. So a token is just kind of like a virtual currency for that particular AI. So you'll pay a monthly fee and you'll get, let's say, 100 tokens for your monthly fee. And every image that you generate would be 1 token. Great question. And as I was mentioning, attaching a reference image can be very helpful. As you can see in this image, the prompt was a person in a beach wheelchair, which is a specific piece of accessible equipment, enjoying the beach. And the AI tool that I used for this couldn't really figure out what an actual beach wheelchair is, so they just used a regular wheelchair, which is fine, and that might be something that for your particular marketing that's not critical. But if you're an accessible devices company, for example, you might have to attach those images, existing images of a beach wheelchair, to get the AI to know exactly what you're going for. And this kind of image generation can be really helpful for marketing collateral, things like creating social media posts, image for a blog, or an image for an email. It can be really good for professional headshots. There are a lot of tools out there that allow you to remove a background and generate a new one, which can give you a really good looking professional headshot just from your iPhone or Android device. It can allow for product visualization. So what could this product look like? And show me an example of how my theoretical product is filling its value. Or you could use Canva is really good for, has a really great AI tool for generating a flyer or other promotional materials or infographics. And as I mentioned earlier in the terms and conditions section, you'll want to be sure that your image will be commercially safe to use. One, by checking the tool that you're using and their terms and conditions, it will usually tell you there. And 2, you'll just want to be safe around the fact that AI really isn't attributing to the data that it's being used to train on. And so this kind of gets us past the basics of AI section, and now we're going to move more into specific tools. So these will be suggestions on specific tools and use cases that'll help, especially for small to medium-sized businesses. Many tools have overlapping features and varying quality. A lot of tools try to fix everything, but they're only particularly good at a few things, and that's something you want to keep in mind when you're choosing your tools. And you also want to set a budget for the problems that you're looking to fix with AI and try to stick to it, because trying every new tool, especially if it's a solution that you already have, can get pretty expensive pretty quickly. And within the lists that I'll be showing you of different tools, the tools at the bottom will typically be more complex than the tools at the top. And any tools that I personally use will be marked in green. And those are the tools in particular that I'll be able to provide any insight or user use case experiences on. And the first thing to cover, I think the easiest thing to cover for AI is probably marketing. And the different options are very wide and vast. Marketing is a pretty big field. There are a lot of specialties, and there are a lot of AI tools for each individual specialty in marketing at the moment. As I mentioned earlier, Canva is a phenomenal tool that has built-in AI designs and graphics. You pretty much just have to upload your logo and your brand colors and choose a font. And Canva can be very helpful in creating a lot of social media posts very quickly. They may be a little formulaic, but I think for a lot of businesses, that's okay. Square is a website design builder that has a built-in photo environment for their e-commerce that's AI driven. Basically, what that means is if you use e-commerce and you have a Square site and you got a new product in, you can take a photo of that product on your counter. It will automatically remove the background. It'll put in a new background. It can even adjust the lighting a little bit, and it significantly shortens and reduces the costs required to get a good product image up on your website. Constant Contact has some new features in regards to developing newsletters and email engagement. So if, let's say, you're just having a really tough time coming up with a header for your email, it can automatically generate a few for you. Or let's say that you don't even have an email to start with and you're really looking to get started, it can generate, using your logo and brand colors, a whole email template for you to fill in, which is very helpful if you're at the start of your email marketing journey. There's things like marketing blocks where you can develop a single ad and then it will resize that ad and the assets in that ad to fit multiple different marketing avenues. For example, your Facebook banner is usually a 2:1 image, and Instagram usually is a 1:1 image, and it will resize that to automatically fit and look nice. Or a banner ad on a website, which is typically a 5:1 or a 4:1, depending on the placement. Oop. And FeedHive is content recycling and posting. So let's say you already have a lot of posts on social media and they're really good quality posts that can be reposted. FeedHive will go into your social media accounts, look at the posts from the last months and years, and can create new posts based on that information for you to post in the future. So it'll do a couple of posts for you a week, and you only have to do 1 or 2 fresh posts as it's recycling old content. And as I mentioned, there are tools available for almost every kind of marketing project. It's really, this is one of those areas where a lot of research is going to be very helpful. And the image that we have here is a image sourced from Canva's Magic Media Creation tool. And my prompt was a mentor giving advice to a small business client in their bistro. And I would say that's a pretty specific prompt because we're looking for a specific setting. We're looking for specific folks. And at a glance, this image looks pretty natural. The more you look at it, it gets a little odd. But it's just one of those things where the power of AI can be really helpful in a pinch. And then the other side of marketing, we have content development. So this is the actual generation, kind of like the image generation next steps. And Photoshop is a tool that I use all the time. Our image that we have here on the right is actually from Photoshop Generative Fill. I selected a box, I selected the area where the cars are in this image and just asked it to remove the vehicles. And as you can see, it didn't do a perfect job recreating the pier building in Portland, but I think it overall did a really good job of kind of sprucing up this image to be something that can be used in a marketing push. And on the other end of things, a little bit away from imagery, we have Runway AI, which allows you to use AI to edit audio, video, and photo using existing media, and it will create videos for you. So you upload a series of images, maybe type out a rough script, and then it will automatically create a captioned video for you with that information. Steve AI does text or voice input to animation using stock images. Kind of a similar thing, but it allows for templated AI animations, which is very, very interesting. And we get further down the rabbit hole. We even have things like Synthesia or Lumen 5. The Synthesia allows you to essentially create a version of yourself or a version of a fake person, an AI-generated person, that actually will speak and lip sync to a script that you give it. So if you record a lot of videos to put on social media, You can just keep, write your scripts. It takes 10 minutes of video for this to create a model of you. And then it will allow you to create multiple videos or even personalized videos for clients without having to put in the extra time and effort of actually recording something and editing it down. And Lumen 5 allows you to essentially drag and drop videos that you already have into or drag and drop text that you already have with images and create a more complex video. Very similar to Steve AI or Runway, but a lot more complex, and I think the outcome is a lot nicer. For copywriting and SEO, the tool that I use the most is Grammarly. It's really good at analyzing and generating written content. It's great at policing tone and style. So it can really help you dial in like how you want to be perceived when you're writing something. In a similar way, the Copy AI is focused on creating blog content, and it's powered by ChatGPT. So it's a much more kind of around tone, but also around SEO and keyword integration. And I think that kind of comes to the pinnacle with Jasper AI, which generates human-like text. So their real focus is on making sure, and if you've ever seen AI generated text, you can almost kind of tell a little bit. Jasper AI's focus is on trying to tweak that out and make it seem like the text generated is really human-like or is written by a real person while still integrating those SEO keywords that you're hoping to get in there. And something to really consider if you're going to be doing any copywriting or SEO is be sure to provide enough original content to avoid plagiarism. Another thing that I really like about Grammarly is any text that it provides, you can actually search it for plagiarism. And it gives you a plagiarism score based on where it might have generated that text, which I think is super helpful. All right, so we're getting out of the kind of marketing sphere and we're getting into some of the other things that AI can be helpful for. This is one that definitely was out of left field for me when I was doing my research on this topic. But AI can actually be very helpful for bookkeeping and accounting. And there's a good chance that if you use bookkeeping software, you're already using AI without knowing it. Auto entry or Expensify are great examples. QuickBooks has this built in as well, where you can take a photo of your receipt and will automatically upload the information from that receipt and sometimes categorize those expenses for you. That is an AI tool that you might already be using. Xero and QuickBooks are also coming out with integrated cash flow projections. QuickBooks should have this out sometime this spring, as well as a large language model query. And that's pretty much fancy talk for saying that there's going to be a virtual CPA in your QuickBooks that you can ask questions about your books and will provide some level of response and answers. AI is not a replacement for sound financial advice from a real person who has experience, but this could be a very interesting way for people to at least start to understand their cash flow if they don't really get it yet. And beyond that, there are things like Clockwork AI and Fathom AI, which are plugins with cash flow forecasting, scenario forecasting, financial modeling, pretty much anything you can think of. An example of what that looks like here is this image on the right. The tools available for bookkeeping and accounting, especially in AI, I think are going to be very helpful for the small business owner over time. But again, I can't stress enough, it's not a replacement for actually talking to a CPA about your books. And sales is an area where AI can actually be tremendously helpful, especially if you're getting into a little bit larger of a business, maybe you have a few employees. Grab AI is an example where it integrates with your accounting software, such as QuickBooks, to provide insights on customer purchasing habits. What that might look like is you might have a client who every November spends an extra $20,000 on the widgets that you sell. This tool will actually tell you, hey, it's October and November is usually a good time for this client to make an extended purchase. So it can help prepare you for those conversations where you might be able to make an extra sale with that client during a time where they're usually already spending a little bit of extra money. Salesforce is going to have an AI tool built in called Einstein, which will let you query your customer relationship management software in the same way that you might be able to query your books in QuickBooks. It essentially lets you ask questions directly to Salesforce as if it's just a person and have it provide answers to you. So you could say something to it to the effect of, hey, when was the last time that we talked to Tim Cook at Apple? And it will tell you the last time that you had a registered or a documented interaction with that person. Exceed by Genesis is a chatbot and email assistant that will automatically respond to messages and schedule appointments for you. Chatbots are very common in AI nowadays, and I think everyone's interacted with a chatbot to some degree or another. And this is one example of how you can use a chatbot beyond that basic customer service, and it can actually be helpful in responding to emails and scheduling appointments. And KnowledgeNet is an AI tool that will track the connections across your business. So everyone in your business would log into this tool. It will track everyone's network. And what that means is the folks that they've emailed before, it will track folks on their social media accounts, such as LinkedIn or Facebook, if you provided access, and any other way that they may have interacted with that person, such as in your customer relationship management software. And it will provide a report. Let's say we want to talk to Tim Cook at Apple. It'll provide a report that says, oh, well, your colleague Jennifer used to work at Apple, and she has had Tim Cook on her LinkedIn profile for 5 years. So that might let you know that Jennifer could provide a warm introduction to Tim Cook. It's a really great and interesting tool, especially for those businesses that are looking to grow. And in our last category, we have organization. So this is the area where I think AI is also particularly helpful. And as we have in this meeting, and I mentioned earlier, the Zoom AI summary, built-in tool for Zoom that provides a summary of the meeting by subject. Very similar to writing notes or having doing secretarial duty in a meeting. And the next step beyond that is Firefly's AI, which is a meeting summary bot that can automatically add notes to your customer relationship management software. And it can also provide snippets of that conversation. So you'll be able to look up short videos from your meeting and play those to kind of get context for what that note means. A tool that I personally use every day and I really love is called Reflect. It's a note-taking app, and this image here on the right is an example of Reflect, where all notes can be queried. And what that means is all of these blue lines are backlinks in my notes, which are AI generated. And I can ask this program, hey, when was the last time I talked to Dave Sheehy? And it will pull up all the times that I've talked to him and the topics that we've talked about. Very useful tool. There's also a tool called Rationale, which will allow you to do SWOT analysis, pros and cons, outcome analysis. Again, I think a very interesting tool to use in advance of meeting with your SCORE mentor so that you have things kind of laid out and you've already thought about them and brainstormed them in different ways. And one that we're using here at SCORE as we're transitioning one associate to another is Scribe. It's a great tool that essentially follows your mouse and keyboard movements and allows you to create training documents while you're doing a task so that it can be easily trained to another person. It automatically creates a PDF that you can print out or send over to them. Phenomenal tool. And I believe, yeah, that wraps up the presentation and the different tools that we had today. And want to thank everyone for joining us, and we'd love to get into Q&A.
Thank you, Dan. We've already had a couple questions come through the chat, so I'll shout them out to start. And if folks have more questions, please go ahead and type them in. So back when you were talking about images, David asks, for images I normally buy from Getty Images, how much faster or better is AI to get the right image?
That's a really good question. I use Getty quite regularly for stock images and illustrations. And I would say it's at the moment with the way where the technology is at, I would say it's about 50-50. AI isn't perfect in generating images, and it will sometimes do weird things like giving people extra fingers. So it might be easier just especially depending on what you're doing, to just look for a stock image that really fits. But that's kind of where that being able to upload an image as an example comes in handy, where you can upload a base image, and then hopefully the AI can just kind of modify it a little bit.
Great. We've had a couple questions related to cost. So Robert's asking, is there a charge for the use of each of these tools? And David also asked, what does the paid version of a tool like ChatGPT give you that the free version doesn't? Can you talk about those different paid and free models?
Yeah, great questions. Most AI tools have free models. It either looks like a limited number of those tokens that I was talking about earlier, which is just basically a very limited access to only being able to do a couple of things with that AI a month. They also might have a free trial where for a few weeks you can check it out, see if it's a good fit for you. But the paid versions of these tools typically have much more functionality to them. That's kind of another thing that I was getting into earlier, with many tools kind of have a very broad functionality where they might do a few things very well, but they try to do everything a little bit. That's something you want to keep in mind. What things are actually super important for you to fix with AI, and what things would just be, it'd be nice if I could speed this along, and then going from there. As for ChatGPT specifically, there's I believe the current model for ChatGPT that's live is for anyone free is 3.0, which hasn't been updated to the internet, I think since January last year. They may have made some updates recently, but it's just essentially an older model. It doesn't update with the internet regularly like the paid version does. And you might also get lower priority. And what that means is there are certain parts in time during the day where they might have high usage, and you might not be able to log in and actually use ChatGPT if you're using the free version.
Right. Dan, do you know of any book that covers information about these tools? That might be a question I can research too on the library side, but
That is probably a better question for the library. There are many books right now that are being written by AI about AI, which is terrifying because half the time the information's wrong. So I would be very hesitant about looking into a book on this topic without thoroughly vetting the author first. Just as an aside, I'm a huge mushroom forager. I love to go out and forage for mushrooms, especially in the fall. And there are books being written by AI on mushroom foraging that are blatantly wrong.
which is a dangerous subject to be wrong about.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I would just be really careful about any information you get from about AI, making sure that you vet the source.
Yeah, I mean, I know just speaking about this library's collection, we do definitely have books on the shelves that are about AI generally, like conceptually how it works, how these tools have been created, lots of analysis of the implications. In terms of books sort of guiding you through how to use these individual tools, I haven't seen a lot of those being published at this point. There may be one or two about ChatGPT and some of those that have been around a little longer. With all of those technology books, whether it's about AI tools or other tools, the books go out of date so quickly that it can be difficult to keep up-to-date things on the shelf because the technology changes and then the publication process does not change, right? So it still has to go through all of the vetting and printing. So sometimes by the time something's on the shelf, there's already a new version of that tool out there and the book's not that helpful. So it can be hard to find print resources on some of that stuff. Nancy wants to know, yeah. Oh, just echoing what I just said. Exactly, Nancy. It's all evolving so fast, books are outdated by the time they're published. Lori says, how long does it take for ChatGPT to understand your patterns and style of writing? Can you speak to that personalization piece, Dan?
That's going to be different for everyone depending on what you're trying to do. I write a lot of workshop descriptions, for example, for our workshops. If you saw a description for this workshop, it might have been written by ChatGPT with a little bit of help. That I would say probably takes me 4 or 5 good iterations, but I already really kind of know what I'm looking for, and I usually have some information that I'm providing it in the beginning, and that kind of comes back to making sure that you're providing enough context. And it's the recipe to getting towards a AI model that's been personalized for you really kind of comes down to that amount of context that you give it and how much you correct it. The AI, like if you tell it, hey, that's wrong, it understands that you're telling it something wrong. So you don't want to just like ignore it when it does something wrong. You want to like make sure that it knows that. That's another way to make corrections.
Do you know if there are any AI resources specific for nonprofits that are free?
I mean, the biggest one would be, just using ChatGPT or utilizing Google Bard, the free version. I'm not familiar with any AI tools that are specifically geared towards nonprofits. There are a
Or
lot of
like
AI
special
tools out
discounts
there.
for nonprofits for the
I'm
paid
not sure
versions,
that
that kind of thing? Because I know Canva does have that. You can have Canva for nonprofits that they'll give you access to the sort of pro version for free if you can prove you're a 501c3. But yeah, I don't know about any of those other tools. Do you need to be careful about what topics you're asking about, specifically topics that might be confidential? Do your questions become part of the internet that could be searchable by others?
That's a really good question. That's I covered that a little bit in the like terms and conditions and a little bit more in the language model slide. But yes, you want to make sure that if you're dealing with confidential information, you anonymize it if possible. Personally, this is my recommendation. If you're dealing with confidential information, don't ever put it into an AI tool. There are some AI tools that will claim, or you can make a deal with the company who makes the AI tool to make sure that your information will only ever be used to improve your particular use of the tool. But one, you're trusting that with another company, which can be a bridge too far for some folks, which I think is totally understandable. And two, typically something like that might require, or that company might ask you if you want them to build an AI model for you, which could get very expensive very quickly. So just as a rule of thumb, it might be better to not put confidential information into an AI tool.
Right.
And a
That's
question
all.
about
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
library resources. If someone walked in today to the Bangor Library and said, hey, I would like some help on ChatGPT or whatever, is that something the library offers help on?
I mean, I personally offer our general technology help sessions. And my kind of personal philosophy with those is if it's something I don't already know how to do myself, then I'm happy to sit down with you and we'll figure it out together. I don't have a ton of experience on most of these tools at this point, but I do think that, our skills here are based in research and, learning new stuff all the time. So if someone wanted to, book an hour of time for a technology help appointment and the subject they wanted to talk about was using ChatGPT or another AI-based tool, we could absolutely dedicate that time to that.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's all the questions I'm seeing in the chat at the moment. Oh, here we go. Another one from John says, is AI habit forming, creative, or does it build in laziness?
I think that's a good question. I personally think, and marketing is one of those areas where, the folks in marketing will say that AI is coming for our jobs, kind of thing. I see it as just another tool, a way to speed up your creativity. I think that if you are a creative and thoughtful professional, then it will be very hard pressed for AI to actually replace you or make you lazy.
And this has just been fabulous session. This is one of the best sessions we've had, and I think it's really such an important topic that we just at least have some groundwork here, and hopefully we'll do some advanced classes with SCORE as well at some point, because I think this is something that it's here, right?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Don, and I want to say thanks again to Rick and Norway Savings and Hannah from the Bangor Public Library.
Yeah, thanks everybody for being here. Unless there's, oh, go ahead, David.
Yeah, just one last thing. I'm relatively new and I've only ever used ChatGPT. I was kind of amazed by the the number of different tools that are out there. So, what's your advice, Dan? Should I be learning more than just one? Or will ChatGPT cover 90% of my needs?
That's another really good. We had a lot of great questions today. I think that especially if you're hesitant about technology in general, I would try to just get your toes wet with ChatGPT. But I covered a lot of different tools today. ChatGPT isn't going to do a cash flow projection for you, for example. So there are a lot of different tools where if you have a need and that need is strong enough, I would definitely think that it's worth sinking the time into trying to learn if it's a good fit for you. But if you're unfamiliar with a lot of these tools or just in technology in general, I would definitely start with ChatGPT. Just try to see how it works for you with writing an email, maybe a hard email that you don't want to write, or summarizing a document that's pretty long and you just haven't had the time to look through it.
Anna, do we want to talk about our next month's topic and date?
Yeah, I was going to mention that before we go. So, as I mentioned, this is part of our ongoing series, the different subjects. Our next online workshop between the library and SCORE is going to be March 27th at noon, Wednesday, March 27th. And the subject is understanding your customer through market research. And we're going to have Allison Lane from CEI, who I think actually was on the call today. So Allison will be presenting that on understanding market research. I'll include the link for registering for that when I send out the recording of today, and I'll share Dan's slides as well if he's willing to send those along so folks can review everything we learned today.
Thank you. This was just a great session. Really appreciate everybody's attendance, and remember score.org. If you'd like to sign up for a mentor, we'd love to help you with your business plans.
Wonderful. Well, thanks everybody for coming, and thank you again, Dan, for presenting.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Have a nice afternoon, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.